Now, before you panic and ring someone, no, I did not hire an actual hitman. I did, however, hire someone to eliminate a debt. Quietly, professionally. No mess, no drama, no fingerprints. The debt in question belonged to my son. And by the time I tell you the whole story, you're going to understand exactly why I called it that. Because there was a version of this where I handled it myself, the way I always have, and it would have solved absolutely nothing. So let's get into it. I'm Connie McCormick. I'm from Cork. I am somewhere past 60 in a way I've made my peace with, and I have spent my whole life being careful with money. Not because I had to be, though sometimes I did, but because being careful is who I am. It's not a limitation, it's a preference. Same as some people prefer red wine to white. I prefer knowing exactly where every euro is at all times, which is why what happened with my son Declan nearly put me in an early grave. Here's the short version, and then I'll give you the long one, because the long one's the one that matters. For about 2 years, Declan was quietly taking money. Not stealing exactly, nothing so dramatic as that. It started small. A loan here, a just till payday there. I'd transfer him €300. He'd pay back half of it eventually, and somewhere in the muddle of being his mother and being a soft touch, I lost track of how much had actually gone out the door. By the time I sat down and added it up properly, and I want you to sit with this number for a second, it was almost €11,000. €11,000 out of my retirement money, given quietly, a bit at a time, over 2 years, to a grown man of 34, who I love more than my own life, and who was, without meaning to be cruel about it, slowly emptying his mother's future. Now here's where Mare comes in, because, of course she does. I rang my sister in a state, and do you know what she said to me? She said, "Connie, you've been financing that boy's entire personality for 2 years, and calling it love." I nearly dropped the phone. But she wasn't wrong. That's the maddening thing about Mare. She says the thing you don't want to hear in exactly the tone that makes you laugh instead of cry, and then you're left there thinking, well, she has a point. So I had a decision to make, and it wasn't really about the money anymore. It was about what kind of mother I wanted to be for whatever years I've got left. I could keep quietly bailing him out, feeling worse every single time, watching my own cushion get thinner while never actually helping him fix the real problem, which was never really about money. It was about a lad who'd never learned how to sit with debt and deal with it directly. Or I could stop being the soft place he landed every time there was a shortfall and instead get him something far more useful than another loan from Mam. I got him help. Real help. The kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't feel sorry for him, and doesn't care one bit about hurting his feelings, because its whole job is fixing the debt, not managing his emotions about the debt. That's the hitman. A proper debt consolidation and management service. Cold, professional, efficient, entirely unmoved by a grown man's excuses, which is precisely what the situation needed, and precisely what I, as his mother, could never be. I sat him down, and I will tell you, this was harder than any conversation I've had in years. And I told him 3 things, plainly, the way I tell most things. 1, I loved him, and that wasn't in question. 2, I was done being his lender, effective immediately, because every time I said yes, I was teaching him that consequences were optional as long as he asked his mother. 3, I had already looked into a debt management company, and I would help him set up the first call, and after that, it was his to carry. He cried. I nearly did too. But I'd made my decision walking Mare's dog the week before. If I'm honest, somewhere around the time she called me a soft touch with a pension. Now some of you are going to write in and tell me I was too harsh. Some of you are going to tell me I should have gone further sooner. I don't think either of you is entirely right, and I don't think either of you is entirely wrong. And that's rather the point of getting older. You stop needing everyone to agree with you before you'll trust your own judgment. What I will tell you is what actually happened next, because it wasn't the disaster I feared. Declan set up a payment plan with the company, a proper structured one, automatic, unglamorous, unforgiving, in the way that debt should be unforgiving. He's paying it down steadily. He rang me last month, not for money, just to talk, and told me it was the first time in years he'd felt like the debt had an actual end date, instead of just following him around, like a smell he couldn't place. And my retirement account, for the first time in 2 years, is exactly where I left it. Here's what I want you to take from this, if you're in any version of this situation yourself, because I know plenty of you are, and nobody talks about it because it feels shameful in a way it shouldn't. Loving your adult children does not obligate you to fund them. Those are two entirely separate things, and somewhere along the way, a lot of us got the wires crossed on that. If someone you love is quietly draining what you've spent 40 years building, the kindest thing you can do for both of you is stop being the emergency fund and start pointing them toward an actual solution. One that isn't you. It felt like betrayal the week I did it. It feels like the best thing I've done as a mother the year after. And before you ask, no, I still haven't switched car insurance providers. Declan actually offered to help me compare quotes as a thank you, and I told him I'd rather hire an actual hitman than sit through that spreadsheet. Some debts I'm simply willing to carry. If you've got a Declan of your own, or you've been the soft landing for someone for longer than you'd like to admit, I'd genuinely love to hear how you've handled it. Not for the drama, just because I suspect there are more of us than we think. I'm Connie McCormick. Mind yourselves and mind your money, but maybe not quite as much as you mind the people spending it. I'll see you in the next video.